Hello, everyone. It's Shelley. Welcome. This is the 30th episode of SNOWED, the Michael Snow is a Fraud story. As promised, we're going to talk about Mr. Snow getting evicted from his shop. Now, this brings us up to about March 2022. He hadn't actually paid his rent in months. Now, his rent, I believe, was anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a month. He had a substantial amount of money in the fall, and now it was gone, so he certainly didn't use it to pay his rent. And this isn't the first time his rent was late, or they've had to call him, or they've hounded him, or they had tried to evict him previously. So this was not his first rodeo with this. But Mr. Snow being Mr. Snow, he does like to think he can talk his way around things. However, I think he met his match with the property manager. So he was evicted, and he had until a certain date to get his stuff out. He didn't. He just laid on the couch, and I would say to him, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Well, he had no help, so he was going to make no effort to do it himself. As well, he had no money. So they did lock in his possessions, and he was not able to get his property out of the shop until he came up with the back rent. And every day it was locked, he owed more money, so he needed to pay. He did somehow manage to come up with, I believe it was like $4,000, and it was cash. And I honestly can't recall how he got that money, but it was cash. And I had a family event that I had to be away, and I needed some of that money desperately because I had committed to purchasing the food for this family event. And of course, I had the money, but it ended up sifting right through Mr. Snow's fingers. So the morning I was leaving, I said to him, I will need to be taking some of that money. And he said, yeah, it's on the counter. So I went downstairs. There was no money. And I said to him, where's the money? Well, it's there. It's not. At any rate, to make a long story short, he was very, very drunk the night before, and he hid the money. So $4,000 cash, and we have no idea what he did with it because he was drunk as a skunk as usual. I was so furious. I had said to him, there had better be money by noon in my bank account. And I did have to leave. I had a couple of hours I had to drive, and I was absolutely livid. At any rate, he really struggled. He was basically ripped my house apart looking for where he may have hid this money. In the meantime, I'm getting very close to having to pay for this food. I'm at Costco, and there is food in my cart that I need to pay for, and I have no money. So once again, Mr. Snow's ex-wife, Julie, bails him out and sends me money. Now, don't get me wrong, whether she did it for him or because she felt sorry for me, I'm incredibly grateful for that. However, I shouldn't be living this life at this point. I just shouldn't be. So I continued on to my family event, and he found the money. Little did I know, he had one of his women actually come to my house and help him look for the money. Of course, she didn't know at the time that, I actually lived there. But you'll hear that story coming up very soon. And I bet you're all dying to know where he'd hid the money. Well, he hid it under the dog food dish. So when I get home from my family weekend that I was attending, he still hadn't actually moved his possessions. So at that point, my knee was so incredibly bad. I could barely walk. There's no way I'm hauling stuff out on, walking on concrete floors and loading and unloading and carrying things. That just wasn't going to happen. As well, I ended up with COVID. So who does he get to help him? He gets the farmer's wife, Cindy, and he gets the car financer, Denise. Now remember, he's sleeping with both of these women. As well, my youngest son actually did help him, which I thought was incredibly kind of him. I was starting to get suspicious of the car financer, Denise, at this point, and my dog ran out and greeted her like he knew her, and that was very suspicious to me. As well, I had cooked for this work crew, and Denise wouldn't come and partake, and Mr. Snow was very angry about that. He he said to me, well, she doesn't want to share a bed with Cindy, the spare room, I guess. However, I'm not sure why, because at one point he told me that they were a lesbian couple. But Cindy does stay the night. So again, Mr. Snow has no problem parading his women in front of me, which, finding out after the fact, it just blows my mind. But again, to Cindy's credit, and I will give her credit, I don't believe she knew that I was anything more than his secretary or his housekeeper or his cousin. So Mr. Snow took all of the possessions out of his shop and moved it into a storage unit. The car, he had the Range Rover that had been parked at the shop, was now towed to behind my garage. So I am sorry that episode 30 is so short. However, I have to go see my dad at the hospital right now. I am trying to keep up, even though I have family obligations and commitments. But stay tuned. I'm going to tell you how I found out how his world started crumbling and how I forced him out of my house.